I don't need no one to say you're complicated. 'Cause I knew from the start this might be overrated. It's so typical, you wanna give it one more try. Even though if your mind is telling you it's all a lie. Oh, I gotta wake up. This might be a breakup. 'Cause I don't believe you when you say that you miss me. 'Cause where are your actions to prove me you're different? When I say I need you and you head the direction that's leading away from me, baby. I don't believe you, no. 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 One thing I love about you is your dedication. It got me dreaming at the station. On my way home, oh, I gotta wake up. This might be a breakup. 'Cause I don't believe you when you say that you miss me. 'Cause where are your actions to prove me you're different? When I say I need you and you head the direction that's leading away from me, baby. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't believe you, no. 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 Oh, I gotta wake up. This might be a breakup. 'Cause I don't believe you when you say that you miss me. 'Cause where are your actions to prove me you're different?
Welcome back to my channel. We are into the new year and finally putting away the Christmas stuff. I always try and start this after the new year. I like to leave my tree up until it is the new year in time for everything to be fresh. So I was a little overwhelmed at the prospect of taking down my tree because it is a 10-foot tree and it is the biggest tree that I've ever had at our old house. Our tree was only 6 feet, so it was fairly easy to take down and put away on my own, where this one I needed a ladder and it was a little bit more time consuming and heavy, and I did it on my own. So I was concerned I wasn't going to be able to do it, but I did, and I was pretty proud of myself at the end of that. But I always get everything put away in a fairly decent amount of time. I think doing this took me about an hour and a half. I will take down the stickers on my slider window, and those always take a pretty long time because it is very daunting to put them on and just as daunting to take them off with all those individual stickers. And I always go a little crazy on the window because the kids love it, but it feels empty now that everything is put away. And now it just has me thinking about how to decorate the space to fill it when the tree is not around.
Loving me was all you tried when you were around. I've been told too many times now. Yeah, loving me was all you tried when you were around. I've been told too many times now. But somewhere I go and hide, looking for a new start. Yeah, somewhere I go and hide, looking for a new start, for a new start. Looking for a new, looking for a new, looking for a new, looking for a new, looking for a new.
So I've never been a person to be okay on ladders. I actually don't do well with heights in general. So a lot of the ladder use that I did this day was out of my comfort zone. I was very nervous the entire time, and when I was done, I actually went and like took a shower so I can calm myself down and kind of tell myself that I'm okay, it's done, and move about finishing up doing whatever I had to do. I don't know why I get scared with heights. I never have fallen. I've never been scared before when I was younger, but I just did not feel at ease. And it's not even because it wasn't a sturdy ladder, it was very sturdy, it was very secure, and I knew very well how to operate the different levels and how to get it to be where it was going to be safe and okay. But I don't know what it is that made me feel so uneasy using it. And especially when I get to cleaning the ceiling fan, was probably when I felt the worst. I had the ladder set to its max height to get up there because we have 12-foot ceilings in our living room. So I needed to be as high as possible to clean the blades on the fan. And it was a little nerve wracking. I did it as fast as I could so I could be done as fast as I could be.
Tick tock, time's up, better make a move.
So taking apart the tree was quite the process. Everything had a million plugs for all the lights, and I had discovered that just taking the pieces off to follow the cord was the easiest way to take it apart versus trying to find it throughout the tree. So I was able to get it taken apart pretty quickly, and then boxing it up was very fast, and then I was able to accommodate it in my storage room. Thankfully, I still have my Christmas tree from my old house, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet. But for now, at least this one is boxed up and put away, and we are ready to wait until we need to break it out again for the following year. Say I was so nervous cleaning this fan. I was so nervous cleaning this fan. I started off at one level and kind of hooked my leg over the top to hold myself to wipe, and then I realized I couldn't see the blade well to know if I cleaned it. So I ended up having to climb down the ladder and extend the height, and then I was able to see the top of the blades to do it. But being that high and holding on to absolutely nothing to do these blades was scary. We have a chandelier that we're going to put up here, and I know you've seen it in past videos and probably this one too. It's that massive box that sits on the floor. We just need two people and two large ladders to be able to do this, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do that yet, but I'm hoping we can get that done in the near future, and then there will be no more wiping of ceiling fan blades in this living room, but a beautiful chandelier in its place, and I can't wait to see that.
So your tears been running like a waterfall. Thought the stars would never let you down.
So now I'm just taking all these stickers off the window. In our old house, if you've been around for a little while and you've seen other videos from our last house, we had no outdoor space to decorate, so a lot of it was indoor. And my kids have always loved these stickers. They love helping doing the stickers, and I still had some. So I figured I'd put them up for the holidays and get that last use out of them. And I really feel like it filled the space. It gave it that extra touch that I don't think we would have realized it gave if we didn't put them up. And now that those are gone, it also feels very empty there. It was up there for the better part of a month, so everybody got to enjoy it, and we actually got a ton of compliments. It was like just so nice. It gave the snow that we had not yet had, and it was just very warming and welcoming and definitely gave it that homey feel. But like everything else, when you stick the individual stickers on the window, it takes forever to get them down. So I was kind of just scratching them off, sticking them to each other. I didn't really have a process to get them down, but it took me maybe 20 minutes to get them all down, and then I gave the windows a really good wipe down to get all the fingerprints and stuff off the windows from me and the kids.
What you think you'll never ever get enough of love. You have to move on. Deal with your broken heart. You have to move on. Deal with your broken heart. No matter what you think, you'll never ever get enough of love. Even if you don't know it. Deal with your broken heart. No matter what you think, you'll never ever get enough of love.
It never ends having to clean my dining room table. I try and clean it once a day. Sometimes it's more than that, but I vacuum the rug underneath at least twice a day because that is where my children eat, and they are 2 and 5. So messes are, of course, they come with the territory. So I like to keep it as clean as possible because sometimes they just drag the food around if I don't stay on top of it. And then, of course, my counter's always the drop zone for anything that needs to get put away, and I just needed to give it a quick clean. We actually had people coming over this day, so I just gave everything like a really quick wipe down and just tidied up because I knew that I was just going to have to clean again. We were going to cook dinner, and of course, I had to prep appetizers later, and it was just doing the bare minimum here to be able to host later on this evening.
When we're together, everything just falls in place. There's nothing that I'd rather see than your face. Two hearts align, so beautiful in every way. But now you're gone, I wish you couldn't just stay.
after I cleaned off the counters, I was able to get and do the dishes and clean that up. And I opted to hand wash everything versus put it in my dishwasher because I had given the kids painting to do, and there were a ton of things that were for the craft bin that needed to get washed and put away. And other than that, there weren't many dishes in there. I always feel like the cups overtake everything else, but dish wise, there wasn't much in there. It was early enough in the day. There were only breakfast dishes in there and cups from the night before, and that was about it. But once I was done here, I just gave the counters a really quick wipe down, and that was it. That's all I did for this day. And then we had hosted later on in the evening, and we had a new mess to clean up the next day, but that's just how it goes.
Hey everyone, tonight for dinner we are making some chili in the crock pot. This recipe takes between 6 and 8 hours on low and 3 to 5 hours on high. I have made this before, it is tried and true, and it is absolutely delicious. So for this recipe we're gonna need some ground beef. I'm using 93% ground beef. You can use between 90 and 93. You want the least fat possible, so it doesn't get very greasy and heavy. And you're also gonna need 1 large onion, garlic, 3 cloves, 2 teaspoons of cumin powder, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1 teaspoon dried oregano, salt to taste, pepper to taste. And for the canned goods, you're gonna need some beans. I have kidney, the recipe calls for 2. I only have 1 today. Black beans, also 1 can. 30 ounces of diced tomatoes with their juices. 30 ounces of tomato sauce, and the diced tomatoes with chilies. And I use Rotel, that's our favorite. And then a bunch of spices, garlic. I mentioned those already. So first we're gonna start off with browning the meat in the pan, and then we will add a few things before we throw it in the crock pot. So before we brown the meat, I'm gonna start off with prepping the stuff that I need to saute with the meat, which is going to be this onion and the garlic. And then once everything is on the stove, I'm going to add some spices to it before I throw it in the crock pot. So first things first is we want to take off the extra skin or the peel of this mushroom. It's an onion. I usually cut mine in half first and then cut through it like this. I know there are way fancier ways to do it. This is just what works for me, so I don't cut myself up. and just small little slices like this does the trick. And then once this is all done, I will start browning the meat on the stove, and then throw everything with all the cans of beans and tomato sauces into the crock pot. And I usually set mine to low. It's just before noon right now, which means I will have more than enough time. My kids typically don't go for this. I usually try and have something more kid-friendly for them on the side, but they're always willing to try it, and they love the cornbread, which I will show you in a second. That is probably one of their favorite things. They love the cornbread that I make on the side of this, and it is a boxed cornbread. I do not make it from scratch just because it's very time consuming. I have to work all day before I cook dinner, and I don't have the time to invest in making cornbread from scratch. I'm sure it's not super time consuming. I wouldn't know, I've never made it, but I'm also not at the point in my life where I'm willing to find out how long it takes. So just cut off the ends. I usually buy the big bags of garlic from Costco, and I'll usually invest a little bit of time every now and then to pre-peel them. I know you can buy it pre-peeled, but I kind of enjoy doing it myself, and they're probably a little cheaper to do it myself anyway, but we use a lot of garlic in our house, so I just find it more cost effective to go to Costco and buy the big huge honking bags of garlic versus going to my local supermarket and getting it there and having to buy it more frequently, because I think I end up going through a few bulbs a week in my house. All right, now that this is all diced up, I'm gonna move over to the stove and I am going to start browning the meat. All right, now we're gonna start browning this meat. I'm gonna put the stove on medium high. I have a gas stove, so that's like at a 5 for me. And I'm just gonna let it heat up for a minute, and then I will throw the beef in. And the spices I'm gonna need for this are salt and pepper, chili powder, cumin, oregano, and garlic powder. So I have those on standby so I can throw them in here with the meat after I throw in the garlic and onion as well to saute a little bit. And then I will transfer everything into the crock pot to get the chili going. In goes the meat, and we're just gonna break it up a little bit. And I'm just gonna let this cook up a little bit. Okay, now that this has cooked up a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and add the onions to let them cook in a little bit. And obviously, as you can see, I did not put any oil in the pan before I threw the meat in here, because even though it was 93% lean, it still renders some fat, and it's not too much where I have to drain it, but just enough to keep the meat moist. So I'm gonna add the onions now in here and saute them for about 45 seconds, and then I will go ahead and also add the minced garlic and then top it off with the spices here. I'm just gonna mix this around for another 30 seconds or so before I add in all the spices. And I always like to start off with the salt and pepper and then top it off with the rest of the spices. So I really do this to taste. I don't really go by the recommended serving sizes of the spices. I kind of season with feeling. I try and stay a little close to it, but from experience, we like very flavorful food. So I go a little bit more heavy-handed on a lot of the spices. And it has not steered me wrong. I think I err on the side of caution when it comes to using salt more than any of the other spices, just because salt really can go a little overboard if you use a little too much, but I would rather have to add that later on than ruin a whole meal that is a little bit harder to adjust. Now that I've added all the spices, I'm just going to mix everything together, and then I will transfer this all into the crock pot where I'm going to add in all the tomato sauces and the beans. Alright. To the crock pot. Alright, I'm going to go ahead now and add the meat, onions, and garlic into the crock pot. Okay. It smells so good with all those spices in there. Okay, and then to this, I'm gonna go ahead and add the beans. I drained and rinsed them and combined them into this strainer here. So I'm gonna add those. And then in no particular order, I'm gonna add the tomato sauce first. So I'll start with this, add this in. Then I have diced tomatoes. You're gonna add these in with their juices. And you can use petite diced. I also really like the fire roasted diced tomatoes. Those are really good too. So go ahead and add those in. And last but not least, probably the best one is the Rotel. And this is gonna give all that extra flavor, and the cumin that you add to the meat will calm down any tartness you get from the tomato sauce. Sometimes they can be a little on the tart side or sour, and the cumin really calms it down to bring a nice balance to it. And then once everything is in here, I just give it a good mix just to combine everything. And then Low and slow is my rule. It gives all the best flavors to anything that you cook in the crock pot. I feel like everything is more tender, everything is more juicy, everything is more flavorful. Low and slow. And I'm gonna do 6 hours today. I usually try and shoot in between, but given the time of day, I think 6 hours is gonna work best. So this is all set. We're gonna cover it up, low and slow, for 6 hours. So now that the chili is going, I wanted to show you the cornbread that I'm gonna use. And I recently discovered it. I don't usually do cornbread. I don't usually eat cornbread. And for me, if you're gonna eat chili, you're gonna have to have a good cornbread. So this is my recent discovery. It is called Fleishmann's Simply Homemade Baking Mix. It is a mix, but it is probably the best cornbread I've ever had. I love it. I highly, highly, highly recommend it if you're looking for a cornbread to have with your chili or soup or anything like that. I will show you guys how I make it later. I will be making them in muffin form instead of a whole bread. It's just easier for everybody to grab their own individual piece, and then also to make sure that everybody has enough. I did get 2 boxes, but being that it's only going to be 4 or 5 of us eating it today, I think 1 should suffice. So I'll show you guys that, and I'll show you the chili when it's all done.
These cornbread muffins are super easy to put together. They're super quick. I think I only had to cook them in the oven for 12 minutes, 15 minutes. And it was just about a half a stick of butter and 2/3 cup of milk. And I just mixed that all in, and then I was able to put that into the muffin tins. I actually think it was a whole stick of butter. It was a whole stick of butter. I'll make sure I link that in the description for you guys, just so you know what the actual measurements are. And it was delicious. This chili is always a hit, and it's so easy to make, it's quick, and it is so good. All I have for you guys today. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy this recipe portion of the video, please let me know in the comments below, and I will make sure to include something like this in future videos. And if you're new and haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'd love to have you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
You just know how to push all my buttons. Moved out of town and I erased your number, but still I find myself calling in the middle of the night.